This is a podcast or something like that. Hello. Wow. How is it going? Welcome back. We are here and recording. How are you doing and what's going on technically for you? You can let me know. You can send in an email, of course, to the mailbag. Wow, this is the earliest mention of a mailbag ever in the first 30 seconds. Wow. Of the recording. Maybe with the intro, it might be a little bit after 30 seconds. Anyways, verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. We sometimes get people writing in, even though it's a pretty new podcast. And yeah, we did not get anyone writing in this week. That's okay. We have plenty to talk about. It is the 10th episode. Pause for people to cheer. The 10th episode. So 10 is a big number where I come from. When you turn 10, you have this big party. It's called your 10sgiving. And, 10, like people just use the word 10 a lot where I'm from. It means a lot of different things. I'm getting a call. Okay. 1 sec. 1 sec or 40 minutes to be more specific. Welcome back. Here we are. No more bits, no more jokes about the number 10 or the word 10. Let's get back on track. All right, so it is the 10th episode. Oh yeah, that's why we were talking about that. I guess that was the sort of connection. Connection 10. God damn it. So here we are back on the Verbal Journal podcast, and I just wanted to start it back up with a bang, okay? We've been rolling and ripping and running here for 10 weeks now, and it's been more than 10 weeks because I feel like there was, a few times I took 2 weeks. Was that just once? Maybe it's been 11 weeks? I don't know. It's close to 3 months that I've now been doing this podcast. And we've had some conversations. We've had debate last week. We've had a lot of just me talking on my own. And this has been cool and good and fun and rad and swell. And then the other thing about the police and the way sirens function in society is that they're quite loud and can sometimes really sort of like make a substantial impact on people's recording practices. So it's sort of just a important function I wanted to highlight in this episode. Just make sure to get that across and fully develop that point. The other sort of subtle point about sirens, which is maybe not always considered in as much depth, is that really sometimes there are multiple sirens. And that's sort of the multiplicity of the sirens, which is an interesting theory that I've been developing. One that I think people are maybe starting to take a little bit more seriously nowadays. And I don't take full credit for that, but, the circumstances have also sort of aligned in my favor. But there's just a renewed interest in that sort of body of work and subject of work and thought of work and body of thought of work of mind, really. Okay, so that was another bit. These are heavily scripted bits, workshopped indefinitely, and yeah. I was pausing because I was taking a sip of coffee, and then the siren started going by, and I was like, I gotta do the siren bit. We've been planning this for months. All right. So verbal journals. So what do we got on the agenda for today? Obviously there were no emails in the mailbag. If you do listen to this, feel free to, prove it by emailing into the mailbag. So what's been going on? So me personally, I did some traveling in the last few days. I went to a city and saw some music and art and had a great time. I stayed in an Airbnb and I just went on my own and did some cultural exploration, some tourism. It was really fun. I saw a band that I've liked for a very long time. and it was a sick show at a small venue. I was right in the front. I even met the band members afterwards. It was super fucking cool. I also met a bunch of other fans, people who were even bigger fans than me, and that was an interesting experience because I'm a huge fan of this band. I like know all their songs and their lyrics. And like there were people who had their lyrics tattooed on them and had gone to so many shows and were going to like 5 shows in a row on this tour. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to this one show. This one person even offered me a ticket to the next night's show, like in that city. And I was like, oh, okay. And then like he started like sending me the ticket, and I was like, actually, never. It's all good. Like, I'll do something else. And I like didn't end up doing anything in particular, but I didn't want to see the same band 2 nights in a row. Like, I mean, even when I love a band, it's like I love that one experience. I don't want to just replicate it. I guess if it was some like interesting, like different sort of art form that really morphed every time they performed it, maybe that would be a good reason to see it 2 nights in a row for sure. I'm not like against seeing the same human beings 2 nights in a row. I just mean in general, like you don't need to see the same set 2 nights in a row. I don't have that type of relationship. So I thought about that while like in reference to some of the stuff I've talked about on this podcast where, it was like parasociality and stuff like that a few episodes ago. Because the interesting point, which I think I said, is like parasociality is not just about internet stuff. It's not like relationships are parasocial because they're mediated by the internet. That's a factor, but that's not the defining trait of what makes something parasocial, as far as what I understand, of course. I think it's more the fact that it's like the internet is used to mediate these relationships that are parasocial because they have a lot of the features of social relationships, but they also lack a lot of the features. That's just how I sort of think about it. So what's interesting to me is like in this real life situation where I'm a huge fan of this band, and probably at other times in my life were somewhat parasocial. I don't know. I mean, I had literally never seen them before this weekend, and not that that's a good thing. I just mean like, I don't even think I like wore their merch or anything. But even though that's a cool thing to do and stuff, I'm not trying to knock that. Parasociality is when you actually are like, my existence to this person means like when one person understands the relationship in a radically different way the other person does. I guess that's sort of one aspect of parasociality. So when I talked to these people who were super fans, they'd been going to this band's shows for 15 years. They'd been interviewing the bands for their zines and stuff like that. And that's fucking dope and cool. I'm not trying to knock that. Parasocial is not like bad, but I did have to feel like it really like, it struck me as like a little bit over the top to like, here's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's totally fine to get lyrics tattooed on you because you're inspired and stuff, but that takes you further away from the person who wrote those lyrics rather than closer to them. And like, it's also totally fine to still, just like go to a band's shows for many years. That's awesome. But like, in a way, like you have to understand that that's like such a specific way to experience the person performing. And like, even the more depth you get about them as a person, like if it's so imbalanced, that's not the natural form of a relationship. And that doesn't make it bad. That just means it's like a certain type of thing. And I think parasocial is the word for it. Maybe, I mean, I didn't think of that until starting this, but like, I think there's like, yeah, maybe something to be said for just like the imbalanced nature of things, making it parasocial, imbalanced nature of like certain relationships in terms of how much one person cares about the other and, stuff like that. So yeah, it was just interesting to think about as like so I talked with these 2 super fans like for like an hour almost before the show started because I was there early and just drinking and stuff, having a beer. And then I ended up like, after the show, I talked to the band themselves, especially the main person. And And it was really interesting to just have this very chill conversation. I didn't ask for like a signature or a photo or anything, because a photo would have meant a lot more than a signature. But I was like, I don't even like, why do I like who? What's why? Like why? Who? Like what is it? What does it do? I mean, there are certain people if I met, I would definitely want a photo with, like Magnus Carlsen or something. It's like, oh, come on, man, we got to get a photo. But like, even then it's like, if you ask for a photo, like you're getting such a specific type of experience with that person. So sort of like rigid or just like structured by that classic, let's do a photo or signature. Come on, signature, y'all. Even if okay, they sign a record. Fine. I guess that's cool. It's more to just remind you that you met them. Like I legit know people who have like found signatures and been like, I totally forgot that I met that person. So I think maybe that's why we're subconsciously or whatever, like that's why we're into signatures. But yeah, so I didn't get a signature, but I just had a nice chat, and I actually asked this guy who like leads the band. I was like, yeah, like what do you think of like people who get your lyrics tattooed on them? I wasn't like calling them out. I was just like, out of curiosity, I asked him. I was like, what do you think of people who do that? He was like, yeah, that's taking it a bit far. Like, I feel like if you got if you get lyrics tattooed on you, I feel like you took it a little too far. I think that's what he said. So it was just a funny story because I was curious about it. Like, I just, I wasn't like calling these people out. I wasn't like saying, oh, that person has your lyrics tattooed on them. Like, they're not a real fan. I was curious about this guy I look up to and like how he experiences it for, other people to look up to him. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just very, very cool experience overall to meet him and just have a brief chat. I was just like, yeah, I was just like, hey, I've loved your music for a lot of my life, and thanks for everything you do. So yeah, very interesting, cool time. And then the next day I went to an art museum for like a few hours and just walked around a beautiful art museum. And yeah, I saw a bunch of amazing paintings, older paintings, just all kinds of fantastic. I saw some Picasso paintings, Monet, Gerard Richter. I saw an old Salvador Dali painting, a painting of some woman, some rich person, some Renoirs, Joan Miro or Juan Miro, I forget his first name. His paintings are always like, wow, dude, okay. Good on you for getting people to pay for that. There were so many other really cool ones by people I didn't know their names. Oh man, I can't remember that one guy's. He's so cool. I gotta look up his name. It starts with a W. Anyways, so yeah, very cool, very inspiring, and made me want to do more painting. So I'm definitely gonna spend some more time painting. I've been making tons of progress in the Breaking Bad video script. So I've been writing a script about my thoughts on Breaking Bad. And let's just say it's coming along. Yeah, this past weekend I did the first big edit of the first draft. And I'm starting to, basically all I have left is to add in like 5 to 10 points that I've just like sort of left as stragglers and haven't really found their place yet, but I think they have a place. So that takes a few hours probably. And then I just have, a few more edits, probably just a few more times running through it, but it's like close to done. So it's going to be just so long. It's going to be hours. So, because right now it's 28,000 words long. And I believe my last video, which was my longest Better Call Saul video, was, I want to say like 13,000. I can't imagine it was more than that. Maybe 15 at most, but I think it might have been less. I don't know. But that turned out to be like an hour and 10 minutes. So this logically should be like 2.5 hours or more, this video. So I don't know how it's going to turn out. And to be honest, if I ended up cutting half of it, which is so hard to imagine, if I ended up cutting like a third of it or something, that would be great. So no promises, obviously, but I don't usually do that because I've already looked through the whole script, and like there are parts where I definitely am like, oh, I could cut this, but could is different than should, you know? I'm not packaging a neat little like, it's specifically once it gets to be a certain length of video, it's like I mean, should I try to make it 2 hours instead of 2.5? Like, maybe. I don't know. Is that good? I don't know. It's only like if the stuff I'm saying does not do interesting things to the viewer's brain, then it's not worth keeping in. But if it's adding, value to the piece, it deserves to be in. Why not? No one's telling me what to do. So it's been a really fun process writing this, and it is going to be my only Breaking Bad video on my YouTube channel. Now, it's not going to be all I have to say about Breaking Bad, and there is a bunch of bonus stuff that'll come out with it for the channel supporters, and I'll keep talking about it, all the time. I mean, I'll do streams, I'll do podcasts. Like, it's a show that I watched, and it's not going to be erased from my memory. But the YouTube channel is going to move on from the Gillaverse. We are going to move on. It's going to be interesting. What I'm predicting is, I don't know what my immediate next video will be. Wow, it's funny to think back to how I decided to watch Breaking Bad finally while recording a podcast episode. You can go back and listen to that one. I think it was like 2 or 3. So yeah, it's funny to think how far we've come. And yeah, it's been like 3 months, and it's like, I'm starting to really think about what I want, and with the YouTube channel in particular. And it's just one mode of presenting art. It's not the be all end all, but it's a channel. It's one channel. A channel implies the existence of other channels. I don't mean other people's YouTube channels, which I don't believe in personally. I don't believe anyone else has a YouTube channel, but what I mean is my YouTube channel, it implies the existence of other channels of expression for me. And so I want to think hard about where I want things to go. I want to make sure I'm using all my skills with my channel. I feel like some of this type of stuff, it heavily draws on my analytical skills, but some other skills are left out. And I do have a lot of topic ideas for videos, but I want to be intentional about where I'm like how I'm selecting things based on, the types of creative energies I want to express and the types of creative projects I want to take on, like specifically. I don't know. I gotta find ways to blend analysis with creativity, in slightly different ways that I think changing subject matter will help with. I also just am done talking about this stuff. It'll be like almost 1.5 years. I mean, I basically started in like January. Yeah, I started in January writing about Better Call Saul of last year. And now it's late March of this year. So by the time I get this video out, hopefully in the next few weeks, it's a little bit of a time crunch, but there's a chance I get it out the Friday after Better Call Saul Season 6 drops on Netflix, which is Monday the 18th of April. So if I get it out that Friday, the 22nd, that gives me right now, a little under a month. I think it's totally doable. I do have to get a few things done on the right time scale, but it'll definitely be really fun to Yeah, it's going to be a titanic editing process. So that's still a little bit of a question mark. I think I can predict how it'll go, but because it'll be pretty similar to how I've been doing things, but there's definitely going to be, there's going to be a lot, but it's going to be so fun recording all this vocals. Just, it's going to literally be like a 5 to 6 hour like performance of me sitting in the booth recording the audio for the video. I mean, it could be longer than that. It could actually easily be 8 hours of sitting in the booth, you know? So, and I could break it up. I might be, you know, I'm obviously going to take breaks. I have to pee because I'm drinking so much water to keep my voice, you know, sounding okay when I'm doing stuff like that. It's really Titanic is the right word for it. It's a Titanic production. Not the right word because of what happened to the Titanic. Just the right word because it represents, you know, largeness. And so, yeah, I do. Yeah. So, I want to get more back into painting. And then with the channel, I want to be stepping into just some other subject matter. I don't know if it'll be likely it won't be other media. It'll either be something related to, I don't think I'm ready to make the video about AI art yet. I think I have a lot more research to do. So it, you know, what it might be is, and the debate wasn't, you know, for research about AI art. That was just, you know, I'm not using a debate for that. It's just because I'm also interested in it. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where we go. So what I'm anticipating with the channel is that I'm definitely going to get less views. Basically no matter what I do, if it's not Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, it's going to get a fraction of the views. That's just a reality. That's okay. And that's how it is. You got to make stuff that draws people in to you and your creative process, you know, or it's got to be something you are very passionate about. If it's not you, obviously yourself, it's got to be things that are connected with you so that it'll be meaningful to you and worth the effort regardless of the result. Luckily, this is not, you know, my job, really my full-time job. So I can be very experimental with how I want to go about things. But I think making a 2.5 hour video about Breaking Bad is itself kind of experimental, you know? So I like to think I'm bringing like a flair to what I work on, regardless of what it is. I just am getting really tired of analyzing television, period. So there's a lot more to do and say, and I've been flexing a lot of my creative skills in different projects, and I sort of just want to see how to do that best on the YouTube channel as well. That being said, you know, I do have a lot of media that I want to analyze, actually. So I just meant that I don't know that I want the next thing to be media. I do have tons of ideas for media that I want to analyze. I just got another one recently, but we'll keep that close to the chest for now. So we have an institution on this podcast. We have an institution which is checking my weekly screen time report. I believe last week we checked it, and then I clicked back out of it and didn't know how to get back into it. So that was very exciting. So this week there's a huge increase in daily screen time. It's 1 hour and 29 minutes of daily screen time, 49 minutes more than last week's daily average. Now, there's an interesting reason for that. Big screen time days, for some reason Monday. Why Monday? Why was Monday a big screen time day? Didn't I work Monday? Wait, how was I on my phone a lot on Monday? Hold on, let's look at what? Oh, one is my app for my work phone. Oh. Wait, why is that screen time? Wasn't I was just on a phone call. Oh my God, that was Monday. Oh yes. Oh, that was so bad. Yeah, so Monday morning, I got up and like called an insurance company to sort out some shit. It's an insurance company I don't even work with that I have to now work with because they're affiliated with an insurance company I don't even work with, but I have to work with because they're affiliated with the company I do work with. So a client is like, oh, I have the company you do work with. And I'm like, great. And then we meet. And then I learn that it's actually this other company because it's not my client's fault. It's the ridiculous corporate nature of insurance in our country. So I had to call them up and like just like try to confirm that I was like in their system as an out of network provider so I could just bill for this client. And it's like, it was so bad, y'all. It was just so bad. They like could not help me. They were sending me back and forth to different departments, people who just had no fucking idea what they were doing. Eventually, finally, I got a supervisor on the phone and they helped me. That was after earlier trying to get a supervisor and just like getting hung up on like things just like happen. So anyways, a lot of that screen time is me on the phone, not looking at the screen. So, okay, Samsung, your screen time game is a little bit weak. So speaking of weak, so for the whole week, so it's an hour and a half of daily screen time on average. Okay. So that's 7, half an hour. So that's 3.5. So that's 10.5 hours of screen time. And, top app is Lichess, which is 2.5 of those hours. So that is actual screen time. So that's like a fourth or what? Yeah, it's about a fourth. It's about a fourth, between a fourth and a fifth of the total screen time is me playing chess. And this is just on my phone. I use my computer way more than my phone. So we don't look at the screen time for my computer. And then 2 hours is me on the phone on my work phone app. So that's not really screen time. And then there's the messages app, which is 1 hour. So 1 hour of messages app over a week. I guess that's not that much. But, okay. So that was that. That was really fun. I think we learned a lot. Oh, yeah, fuck. I should have teased this at the beginning so people would know. I said I was going to talk about it today, and I do want to talk about it today. We're going to talk about everything, everywhere, all at once. But first, we're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. So the Dallas Mavericks, are a basketball team, and they... oh, nice. They're losing at the half today, too. So I hate them. So I don't like them. I like Luka Doncic he's obviously a legend and stuff. Like, I'm not trying to say he's bad or whatever. But I do not like Kyrie Irving because he's a reactionary. He's he has like bad views about things and poor impulse control with how he expresses himself with those views. So I don't like him because he's an anti-Semite, which is just like one of the dumber ways to exist. He shared that video on his Twitter or on his whatever social media that was, heavily anti-Semitic. I believe he spread a bunch of other reactionary sort of talking points. And I think he's, I'm not going to say he's like overrated as a basketball player. He's obviously good at the game of basketball. But to me, that's never mattered. It's like there are a lot of people who are like pretty great at things. So I like how he sort of floundered in Brooklyn, and it seems like he's a bad teammate. People don't like him. I'm basically preying on his downfall, Kyrie Irving. I don't have people like this that I'm such a hater for very often, but he's an anti-Semite, and I'm not like, I don't want bad things to happen to him or his family. It just basketball wise, I want the Mavericks to not make the playoffs, and they are coming very close to not making the playoffs. So Kyrie has just played not well at all in his game so far at Dallas. He's had something like close to 10 games or something. And Dallas has played terribly. So I've tweeted about it a few times. I get a huge kick out of it when they lose. There was a game where Kyrie Irving he took a 3-pointer when they were down 2 points and he missed it at the buzzer. It's like, yeah, that's an extremely cocky thing to do. You should probably go for a 2-point shot, higher percentage, and So that was very fun. I watched that many times. Him missing that shot and losing the game at home for Dallas. So if we go to my Twitter, we can look at some of the other hater tweets I've sent about Kyrie Irving. I said, I wish the Dallas Mavericks a very happy biggest blown lead of the NBA season. Enjoy the anti-Semite losers. So that was on February 26th. They had the biggest blown lead of the NBA season. I think they were up it was an absurd amount of points. Here, I can tell you. Hold on. Let me just Google biggest blown lead of the NBA season. Not in history. Wait. Oh, Celtics? Oh, never mind. The Nets came back 28 points to the Celtics. And that is bigger. Hold on. Yeah, wait, let me look at what the Dallas Mavericks was. Yeah, 7-27. So they lost a 27-point lead, and that was February 26th. So they did. Now it is not the biggest blown lead of the NBA season anymore. There was a 28-point blown lead. But it was very good to see that biggest blown lead happen with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, I believe. At the very least, Kyrie Irving. I think both of them. But I don't hate Luka. I just hate Kyrie Irving. So yeah, that one where he's shooting a 3-pointer was so good. And that was their fourth one possession loss. So losing by 3 points or less. Fourth one possession loss in 5 games of having Kyrie Irving. Yeah. It was the fourth in 5 games with both Luka and Kyrie where they lost by 1 possession or less. So that's fantastic. And Kyrie was shooting 15 of 40 in the last 2 games before that, which if you're shooting under 50% from the floor overall, that's not your 3-pointer. That's just come on, you're missing more than you're making. And so, yeah, so last night, what was this, last night or the night before? Yeah, last night. Last night, the home crowd loudly booed at American Airlines Center during a timeout midway through the third quarter. This was Friday night, when the Dallas Mavericks trailed the Charlotte Hornets by 18 points. We probably should have been booed in the first quarter, Mavericks coach Jason Kidd said, after a 117-109 loss to an undermanned Charlotte team that dropped Dallas to 11th place in the Western Conference standings, a spot out of the play-in scenario. Play-in scenario is when you get a chance to play a game to make the playoffs. The coach described the Mavs' efforts as awful and dog shit in the first quarter, when the 24-51 Hornets scored 37 points despite missing 3 starters and playing on the second night of a back-to-back. I literally exclaimed when I read that line the first time. The 24-51 Hornets scored 37 points in the first quarter despite missing 3 starters and playing on the second night of a back-to-back. That's a lot. Dallas entered the game as a 16-point favorite, making this the biggest upset in the NBA season, according to NSB. So the biggest upset in terms of in terms of odds. That's wild. The Mavericks' only lead of the game occurred after Luka Doncic drove for a floater after the opening possession. Oh my God. Dallas is 7-12 since All-Star guard Kyrie Irving joined the team following a blockbuster trade with the Brooklyn Nets. 7-12 since Kyrie Irving joined. Yeah, the Kyrie curse, more like it. Maybe you shouldn't hire an anti-Semite to work for you who barely even apologized for it. This includes 3 wins and 7 losses when Irving and Doncic, who have both dealt with nagging injuries, are in the starting lineup together. Oh my God. And then Irving, here's the quote they have from, I don't even know if I want to read it. It's nonsense. He says, the pretty words that sports loves to put in. Oh, it says, Irving scoffed at what he called the pretty words that sports loves to put in, like hope and concern, end quote. saying that an adjustment period was anticipated after a major midseason trade. So he's saying that people don't actually have hope and concern. It's like, okay, yeah, no, some people are preying on your downfall, like me. Nevertheless, Irving attributed the Mavericks' poor start against the Hornets to a lack of energy. We're a very poised group, he says, where I feel, he says, quote, we're a very poised group on days where I feel like we put in the best effort. And then on days where kind of the energy falters or we don't start off well or the offense isn't going or people aren't making shots, there could be some emotional pulling in other directions that can dictate the outcome of games, said Irving, who had 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists, but shot poorly, 6 of 16 from the floor, including 1 of 8 from three-point range. Like, his point stands. I don't think he's saying nonsense. I mean, someone doesn't have to be, like, incapable of rational thought to be a bigot and a reactionary. But, yeah, I mean, he's making a fair point about, I guess, the momentum of the game. It's a very momentum-based game. I do love the part at the end where they say that he shot 6 of 16 from the floor, including 1 of 8 from 3. So, and then they go on and he says, Kyrie says, and we're still feeling each other out in a way of getting used to each other's efforts and attitudes and temperament. And that's a real thing. That's a human thing. That's a human element, whether people believe it in basketball or not. There's a very fine line between winning basketball games and everyone being on the same page and losing basketball games and things splintering and pointing fingers. Okay, that's a separate. He just made 2 points that were separate, but he said them as if they were the same thing. He says we're still getting used to each other. That's a human element. It sounded like he was at first saying like as we get used to each other, we'll play better. But then he goes on to say that there's a fine line between teams winning and everyone being on the same page and teams losing and people not being on the same page and pointing fingers. So that's almost like he's saying, well, it's not that we're getting used to each other and so we'll play better. It's like we're not used to each other, so there's this sort of like dramatic blaming when when we lose. But I just don't even know if that's what they were asking about. So it's but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I maybe they should point fingers. Maybe you should. Maybe it's your fault. Maybe it's you joining the team and being really bad energy. So maybe you should just not play basketball. Maybe you should find like another line of work or something. So, and then he goes, Irving says, Irving considered the fans' reaction to be irrelevant, the booing, his home fans booing him. He goes, so what? Just the way I feel about it. I've been in New York City, so I know what that's like. You obviously want to play well, but it's only 5 people on the court that can play for the Dallas Mavericks. If the fans want to change places, then hey, be my guest. And that's legit. I can definitely respect that. Got years of work ahead to be great enough to be on this level, but that's a fair point that he's making. He goes on to say, but our focus isn't necessarily on the booze. It should be on our performance and just being there for each other, which is also very true. But maybe he wants people to be there for him because he feels bad about how he brings bad energy to the team and is a reactionary. So anyways, that is me preying on the downfall of the Dallas Mavericks. I very much hope they do not make the playoffs, and I wish them many humiliating losses. They are, as we said, they are actually playing right now, and they are playing against the Hornets again after a day's rest yesterday. They're playing the same team that we just read the article about, and they are down 7 points at the half. So next week, I hope I can tell you that they lost this game and many others. It would be great to lose against the 24-51 Charlotte Hornets again. That would be really, really great because you lose twice in a row to a team. It's like, it really implies like you are provably worse right now than that team. It's like in chess. You lose twice to the same player. It's like, oh, they're back on at the half. They're back on at the half. Great. So I'll just live report the entire game. No. So let's talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once. Okay. So this movie, it obviously won Best Picture at the Oscars 2 weeks ago. And I didn't want to talk about it 2 weeks ago, even though we did the podcast on that Sunday and it, was nominated for all these Oscars. It would have made a lot of sense to talk about. But I thought that would have been a little cliche. You know, you talk about the Oscars on your podcast episode, the night of the Oscars, the day of the Oscars. Come on. We're better than that here. I also didn't want to talk about it last week because I thought it's a little too soon. You know, are we really going to talk about the Oscars just 1 week after? It's a little too soon. I think we're all still recovering. But I decided now I'd like to talk about it. It's now been 2 weeks. I thought I didn't watch most of the Oscars. I watched some of it. I thought I was very happy with Everything Everywhere All at Once winning as many awards as it did. And the actors, I mean, you know, you could say some different actors should have won instead. I'm sorry, I don't actually know the actors' names. But there's a very solid argument that the young woman in the movie, the daughter, should have won the supporting role instead of what is it, Jamie Lee Curtis? I know her name. Okay. Is that her name? That always sounds wrong to me, but I think that is her name. Anyways, so there's a lot of good things to say about this movie, and people could talk about it all day, and I know they have. There's been a lot of back and forth. I haven't really partaken in any of it, but I see people online being like, I guess because there's so much positive sentiment about this movie, there's obviously going to be a lot of people being critical, and they have every right to be. People can criticize whatever they want. I think there are some people who make whatever bad criticisms. There are probably some good criticisms. I don't know if I've seen them, but it's art and it deserves to, it gets whatever reaction it gets, and that's perfectly fine. So I'll tell you what I loved about Everything Everywhere All at Once. I absolutely loved it. I saw it in the theaters twice. I saw it the first time I teared up or cried multiple times. Second time, I don't know if I actually teared up, but I was moved and loved it the exact same degree. Everything about it is fantastic. I mean, fundamentally and technically and everything, but what I loved most about it is, so spoiler alert, obviously, I really if you haven't seen it, I think what I'm going to say is sort of, it's thematic enough where it's not going to ruin it at all. But if you are planning to see it, you might as well just not listen to what I'm going to say and maybe listen to it after, fast forward a few minutes or something. Or just stop listening to the podcast now. You probably won't miss anything important. We're probably going to stop after this. But here's what I think. Okay, so if you saw the movie, what I love about it, I'm just putting this. This is not artful. I don't feel like making a video essay about it or anything. I just want to make this point. What I love about it, it's a movie about nihilism and moving on from nihilism. Right? It's a movie literally about how to move on from life when you've looked into the world and said, I guess life doesn't have inherent meaning or whatever. And I'm not saying I necessarily believe that. I just I think that's it's valid to use your best critical thinking skills and analyze the human condition and say so I mean, I guess ultimately life is full of pain and suffering, and while it can have more good than bad, it doesn't have to, legally. And so that's not a reason to be down, though, in my opinion. And it's sort of a philosophy thing of this type of thing. I feel like this is sort of what stuff Nietzsche wrote about and stuff. I'm not I don't know everything about philosophy, but I believe this is what he talked about too, or it's certainly stuff I kind of connected with when I read his work. And it's also just if you read fiction that deals with themes of absurdism or, Camus or, I don't know. I feel maybe Kafka as well. But all I'm trying to say is Everything Ever All at Once portrays this story of the daughter is almost she's formed this nihilistic perspective where nothing matters, and it's so much that it's become a religion. And you have her relationships with her mom, or yeah, I was gonna say with her mom and dad, but it's mostly her relationship with her mom, which is which is sort of being analyzed and broken down, and you're seeing her struggling in her relationship with her mom. And in that, you're also seeing her struggling with like her like desire to live at all, and her struggling with the fact that like her mom doesn't seem to like see that nihilistic perspective, or like she can't connect with her family about that sort of darkness that she's had to witness and feel like alone in witnessing. Sort of like she finally has her mom as the other rock when they're the two rocks looking out, over the landscape. She really wants her mom to see that darkness, and basically as like a challenge, like, you brought me into this world with this darkness and you won't even look it in the face. So like, why, like how dare you? And maybe like look at it and tell me if you still think like life is worth living, basically. And her mom, the whole movie is like a story of a person like proving to themselves and their family that they have the courage to fight to like live. And it's really intense. It's almost making me a little emotional just talking about it, but it's like, like that there's that line where Waymond is like, it's him, right? He's talking about like how his ability to like maintain a positive perspective is his own fighting. Oh yeah. It's in the alternate universe where she's the extremely famous professional fighter, and they meet up having never had their relationship because she went in that direction and became a professional fighter instead of marrying him. And he says, you have your fighting and I have sort of mine, and it's his fighting to maintain like equilibrium in his perspective and maintain positivity and stuff. And I really resonated with that. I really do believe it's like one of the deepest like human callings to just like try to be positive about life in a real way, like in a very real and not false, not repressive way. I think that's one of the most beautiful challenges of life and art, how to be positive about an extremely complicated situation that has sort of no fixed qualities except for a few, which I sort of talk about in my video about the meaning of life. But so Everything Ever All at Once really made me emotional for that sort of side of it, which was about people's fight to witness the potential meaninglessness of human existence and still find a reason to carry on and fight. And I really do think that's like one of the most important questions in the world. Because I think a lot of intelligent people can rationally come to the conclusion of like, well, everything will eventually sort of like melt away. So what does it matter what I do? But I don't think that's a good argument just because it might have some validity to it. I think it's short-sighted and unwise. So I think there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom, and intelligence can come to the conclusion that life is inherently suffering, but wisdom can sort of come to the conclusion that like, well, I don't know, man. So no, wisdom can come to the conclusion that like, well, minimizing that suffering and maximizing the goodness is still worth doing. So as I'm talking about this, I'm not like looking at my screen. It's like mostly dark, but I do have the ESPN page pulled up for the full play-by-play of the Dallas game, and I'm just seeing all these things. Oh my God. Kyrie Irving, personal foul. Kyrie Irving, loose ball foul. Kyrie Irving misses 2-point shot. I'm going in order. I'm not skipping anything about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving misses 26-foot 3-point jumper. So just a lot of good stuff going down. The Dallas Mavericks are currently 8 points down with 7 left in the third quarter. We're going to call it there. Well, we're going to call a timeout on this podcast, if you know what I mean. And I hope you enjoyed the discussions that we had. Feel free to let me know at verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. I really enjoyed recording today, and I hope you had a good time listening. Have a fantastic rest of your time and your life until I see you next. Feel free to listen to the other podcast episodes or go watch some great videos on the YouTube channelio. And I'll see you later. Okay. Bye. This is a podcast or something like that.